We saw like many global CEOs coming to China these days. For instance, Tim Cook is just unveiled its flagship Apple store in Shanghai, and Howard Schultz launched Starbucks' new drink. It seems that big US companies are still committed to its Chinese market despite the impact of the recent trade tensions. So what do you see as the potential future trajectory?
There are two kinds of U.S. companies here. There are those who've used China as a supply base back to the United States, to ASEAN, to Europe. The problems with U.S. tariffs, the problems with trade, have caused them to what we call de-risk. Those companies, like you just mentioned, Starbucks, they're in China for China. They don't need to de-risk. So there's nothing for them, you know, McDonald's, you know, they're in China for China. A lot of the American companies, or the pharmaceutical companies, so they're both. So the pharmaceutical companies obviously see China as an incredibly important market. So also the pharmaceutical companies improve the health of Chinese.
Take TikTok ban as an example. You said if U.S. government wants to regulate social media companies, they should regulate them all the same. Why did you say that?
TikTok has in place data protection that is actually superior to other companies in the United States, other social media companies in the United States. So if we're going to decide to regulate TikTok, then regulate everybody the same. The idea, so the criticism that the Congress has of TikTok is the Chinese government will interfere in TikTok and take the data that TikTok has and use it against America. And I ask, have they ever done that? The answer is no. But they might do it. I said, in what circumstance would they do it? So there's not really an understanding, which leads to legislation which is inconsistent with American values.
Yeah, Steve, you were among the earliest that witnessed the establishment of the diplomatic relations between our two countries in January 1979. At that time, you stood on the White House lawn, like watching Jimmy Carter welcoming Deng Xiaoping for his historical visit. And what was that experience like for you, a 28-year-old young man at that time?
Well, I was what I say is I was the xiao tudou in the State Department working on the establishment of diplomatic relations. I remember as I saw, you know, as we stood there, I think two things. One, I was working so hard and I was so young. I didn't realize that this was the most important thing I would ever do in my life. You're 28 years old. I didn't, you know, I saw Deng and I went, oh, this is so interesting. This is so cool. I didn't know I was witnessing history. I didn't know I was participating in history. Now I look back at it and I go, wow, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
So, but it's funny, when you're young and you're participating in history, you don't know it.
Like many other relations, the U.S.-China relations has its ups and downs. And as President Xi said, the relationship cannot go back to the old days, but it can embrace a brighter future. So where do you think the resilience of this relationship lies, and where is the way to the future?
I think each government needs to recognize the importance of the relationship and the fact that when it has gone bad, it really impacts the lives of both Chinese and Americans. What we've seen, though, over the last 11 months is we've seen improvement in the U.S.-China relationship. And that's really because both governments recognized that this relationship where there was no communications, where the State Department was not talking to the Chinese ambassador, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs wasn't talking to the American ambassador, that wasn't good for the people. And then San Francisco has created a path forward. But I think President Xi said families have problems, but they stay together as families. And that's very true.
咱们美商会更重要的可能也是关注这些美国企业在中国的发展。那我们曾经看到的，在过去许多年当中，中国和美国企业，比如说除了这个制造或者产业链的这样一个合作之外，在更多的在研发在这个创新领域的这样的合作，特别是我们现在关心的高科技领域，您觉得这个趋势是不是也有所改变？
我觉得我们是最近很看好这个中国的发展的方向这个追求高质量的发展所谓的新质生产力，
对，
这个我们很认同，因为中国已经过了那个劳动密集型、污染型的这种粗放型的这种发展的这种模式，未来呢，它会更多的是强调创新，强调技术发展。然后其实中国在创新方面，在有一些领域已经领先世界。最简单一个例子就是我们的新能源车这个中国的 BYD 这些汽车制造商最新又有小米都来了他们应该是很有竞争优势的当然我们的会员公司特斯拉它的产品也是很不错我觉得在这种环境里呢，大家互相竞争促进大家的这个有更多的创新，产品有更多的开发，我觉得是一个很健康的一种竞争我觉得外资企业包括美资企业在内，我们是很看好这种良性的竞争。
The products that are made in China and some of the newest products that are made in China, demonstrate considerable innovation. This is not the market of 20 years ago where you saw replication of products made elsewhere. There's absolutely global leading innovation here, whether it's NEVs or display screens. We see just many, many examples of that. And they're appreciated by customers around the world. That's key. Of course, on the US side, this is a big market for Chinese goods, and they're appreciated, they're recognized. And at the same time, the US looks at China and sees the big market potential that's here. And they've worked very hard, our companies have worked very hard to establish a really strong base here. The company I worked for originally, Pfizer, has been here a long time. Merck from Germany has been here over 90 years. Yeah. They were established at the Peace Hotel. Yes, 1933.
Wow.
And so that legacy means something to these companies, and they're very proud of it. Well, I think there are two things that concern them. The world, not just China, is gone from being complicated to complex, right? There's a big difference, and we're all operating now in a complex environment. The book that was written 20 years ago is not the same book that will be successful today. And therefore, I think we're learning and we're relearning. That goes for American, European, any nationality company, and it goes for Chinese companies too.